So let's proceed with the next step, like introduction to JSX. Okay, I was keep saying that this is whatever we wrote, right? We actually wrote here. Okay, this is a JSX element, not a JavaScript element, right? This is a JSX, not HTML. Though it looks like HTML, it is actually JavaScript. Actually, the JSX, what really happens is this is getting converted by JSX compiler, okay, to JavaScript. Okay, so you can also wonder here, we never use React. Why we have to import this line? Okay, so because when this is getting converted, this gets converted to React.create element. So we can see how it gets converted. If you go to this page, Babel Playground, if you have go to that page, you will see that how this is getting converted. This JSX is getting converted, okay, to JavaScript. Just go to this page, okay. So this is what we wrote, right? This is how it is getting converted, okay. Can see this is how it gets. This is JSX code, and just by JSX compiler, it gets converted to React.create element. Because here we have React, right? That's why in our page we need a React, okay? Because when it runs, it will throw, else it will throw error that React is not present in your page. When this gets converted by JSX compiler to JavaScript, okay? Is it mandatory to write a JSX is nothing but a extension to JavaScript. So we also saw in React we can write HTML, CSS and JavaScript in the same JSX. All the three can be represented in the JSX. Okay. So JSX, if you see it is an extension to JavaScript. It is not mandatory to write our React components in JSX. You can easily write it like this. You can instead of returning a JSX element, you can do the conversion, return it yourself. But just for convenience for the developers, we are writing in JSX. Okay. This also will work now. Okay. If you go to the page, React page, it also will work. This also prints hello. You can see that. So JSX is just as a convenience for the developer, because if you have a nested, right, it will be very difficult to, for this it may look simple for you, okay. For this it may look simple, but if you have a nested element, maybe inside the div, I have a many span, okay, a couple of spans, okay. After that, this inside this div, I have many span elements, okay. Maybe I have something. Let me just copy paste this. You can understand how complex it becomes. So you have to return this instead of this, which is looks very simple, but this looks very complex in case of nested, when you want to write a nested HTML. So this is also more error prone. So it is more preferable to use JSX. Okay. Now, hope you understood what is JSX. Okay. So that's why we write JSX just as a convenience for the developers. Now our next step will be to move this to a separate, this component, the function component we wrote, we will move to a separate file. Okay. So how to move it is our next challenge. Okay. So let me, we already have app.js. So I'm not creating it. I will delete all this, whatever is present in that app.js. Okay, and I will copy the function component we wrote to that app.js. Okay, so I can delete it here, and React is also needed there because for converting this JSX into JavaScript element. Once it converts, it becomes React.create element. So it will require React. So I am adding React. And for using this component in index.js, you need export constant. We can export it as a default component, default app. Okay. Using ESX import. Okay, ESX we have a AMD common JS module system and ESX module system. Using ESX module system, I'm just exported it. Now I can use it in this file using import. Okay. Now to use it in this file, I will import this app, and I can do it without that flower braces because I have done a default export. Okay, app. Okay. No need of JS because for JS that .js is optional. Okay. Now we have imported the app from that app file, right? We have moved the function component here and we have exported, and now we have also imported. Now it should work because I already have that app here. Now this will be rendered in the root element. Now let's see whether it is working. We'll close all this so that you understand better. Now also you can see that hello. Okay. Okay, this is the next step is done for us. Now let's move on to the next step. The next step is making the functional component as a class component. As I told you earlier, we have two types of components in React. The functional component. This is a functional component. Now let us make it as a class component. What is how to make it as a class component is very simple. Okay, in a functional component we just return, but in a class component we have to return it inside render method. Okay, and this class component should extend from component. Okay, and we have to return it inside render method. So it is a render method. So we have returned it inside the render method, and for making it as a class component, just add ESX class and say extend component. Component is also imported from React. So that's it. Now this also should work for us. Okay, it is working. So these are the major differences, and other major differences is for a class component, the class component will be able to access the state and props. Okay, state and props are accessible, and also you can access the lifecycle hooks like component did mount. We have different lifecycle hooks like all these. Okay, these methods called as lifecycle hooks are called when the component is in that particular state. Maybe when the component is mounted, this will get called, and is about to get mounted, this lifecycle hook will get called. And these lifecycle hooks are only you can add it only for class component. Okay, and this will be called when that particular state happens in the component. Maybe when the component gets mounted, whatever code happens here will get executed. Okay, this is one difference, and all the components class component will be able to refer to state. You can see state, it will be able to have all the class components have a particular state. Okay, so will all the instance will have a reference to the state. Okay, and props also it will get access to. The props are nothing but how the properties which are sent from the parent. This properties you can also access it in function components, but the difference between class and function components, if you take the class components will be able to have access to the lifecycle methods, that is lifecycle codes like component did mount and the state. Okay, this dot state you can't access it in a functional component. So all the class components will be able to refer to the state. What is the state basically? State is nothing but or like external dependencies. Maybe for our project, right? For the employee project, what we were seen till now, if you take the external dependencies based on which your application is dependent upon. Okay, for us the external dependencies are these employees which we get from the user. These are external dependencies, and the other external dependency is the username password what the user enters. That is also a external dependency, right? What the user enters, and based on whether if he enters the correct username and password and he presses on submitted, there will be a state. Okay, a login state, whether it is true or false. That is also a external dependency based on which we will be showing the login page or the employee page. Okay, when he enters, I will reiterate, when he enters the correct username and password and we press on submit, and we can maintain another state called logged in. Okay, so once he enters it, we will make the logged in which was false as true, so that we show the employee page. So the states are nothing but the external dependencies. Okay, so for our application the states may be like this, though we will see that implement it later. Just to for you to understand, the state for our application may be like this: they may complete employees, which is a list, and username and password, which is entered by the user, password, and we can also maintain a state called logged in state, and we can also maintain an error if he enters a wrong username and password. Maybe we can update the error state so that we show this error to the user in the login page. Okay, this is all the external dependencies we have for this application, which we can maintain in the state for the application. So this state is not present for the functional component. So if we want to update the state, the functional component has to tell it to the parent class component to update the state. It can't update, it does not have a state, so it cannot update. It has to tell it to the propagate it to the parent class component to update the state. So you have to understand. Okay, hope you understood. So these are the big differences with the class component. Okay, so this is what I wanted to make you understand. Okay, so this is the things we did now introduced and making it as class component. All right, now so okay, so let's now proceed to the next step in our step to project creation.